Hello students, you are welcome to the first lesson on AEM 303, Agrarian Institution and their Management. My name is Dr. Helen Bassey Inyang, your course facilitator. I assure you that this course is a very interesting course and you will enjoy it. Thank you. Once again, you are welcome back to the class on AEM 303, Agrarian Institution and their Management. Lesson 1. The topic is Overview of Agrarian Institutions and their Management. Let's look at this picture and then you'll be able to derive something from the topic itself. You can see here, this is the first picture here. It talks about food gathering and hunting. This is a period whereby men move from one place to the other in search of food, and then also hunts for animals for food. They don't plant, they don't cultivate. What they do, they move from one place to the other looking for food to eat. By the time they finish eating, especially if they happen to maybe harvest fruits, then they finish eating and then throw them away. Those fruits will germinate and then also grow to a mature fruit for them to continue eating. And they also go for hunting. They go in search of animals they will use for their meal. But as time goes on, this method was changed to cultivation of crops and rearing of animals at home. This is the genesis of agrarian civilization. From this picture here, you can see that people are cultivating. Some they will till the ground, clear the land, till the ground, and then cultivate their crops and harvest them. And also rear animals, domesticate animals. Animals is no longer moving or roaming about in the bush, but they domesticate them and own it as their own. As time goes on, it's metamorphosed to mechanized farming system, where people use machineries like tractors, harvesters, plowing machine, and others for cultivation. So you can see that from this, you can see that the history of agrarians started from gathering of food, hunting of animals, to settlement, farm settlements, and to mechanized introduction. Agrarian institution and their management is a special area in the field of agriculture, where all students and practitioners interested in agriculture must be acquainted with the overall management of agriculture. It is not just a specific field. As a student of agriculture, you must be able to know how to manage your production, agricultural production, with the various minimum resources at disposal. We all know that resources are always very scarce. So the little resources at her disposal, you'll be able to manage it well in order to maximize output. So you'll be exposed to this. And it is an area also that shed light on the operation of agriculture around the world with the aim of applying the experience gained in developing the field of agriculture in Nigeria and other developing countries. Relevant lessons are drawn from the management of agriculture in developed countries. The various concepts of agrarian institution, the historical development of agriculture coupled with establishment of agrarian institution in the world are well spelled out. Like the picture I showed you, from food gathering and hunting to settlement, and then metamorphosed to mechanized farming system where we are enjoying today. It is also important to be familiar with the structure of agrarian reform as a basic of moving towards the right direction in satisfying the yearning of the people in the area of food production. Well, I want to tell us that we have not yet gotten to the stage of food security. But I believe as time goes on, we get there. By the time we finish, this course is completed, your knowledge will be broadened on areas in which you should contribute to food security in the nation. The contribution of every stakeholder in alleviating food crisis are expected to be studied as a means of exposing the learners to what operates in the field of agriculture generally. The course guide describes to you in a nutshell what you are expected to learn in the modules developed. It also lays emphasis on the course materials you are expected to use and the modality of making use of specific course materials. Like here in National Open University, we have the course module on Agrarian Institution and Management. And the course modules or materials is divided into 5 modules. Module 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with various units, which we are going to discuss them one after the other. The main aim of this course is to provide a broad understanding on the establishment and operation of agrarian institutions of the world, as well as Nigeria. The course objectives are to conceptualize what agrarian institution is all about, to trace the historical development of agriculture in the world with an emphasis South Asia, as we look at those histories in our next lesson. Describe the rural development management. We also discuss the agreement for the establishment of agrarian reform and rural development. So before you watch this video, or before I will continue and go further, I would like you to watch this video so that you understand better.
An agrarian society or agricultural society is any society whose economy is based on producing and maintaining crops and farmland. Another way to define an agrarian society is by seeing how much of a nation's total production is in agriculture. In an agrarian society, cultivating the land is the primary source of wealth. Such a society may acknowledge other means of livelihood and work habits, but stresses the importance of agriculture and farming. Agrarian societies have existed in various parts of the world as far back as 10,000 years ago, and continue to exist today. They have been the most common form of socio-economic organization for most of recorded human history. The main demographic consequences of agrarian technology were simply a continuation of the trend toward higher population densities and larger settlements. The latter is probably a more secure consequence of agrarian technology than the former. In principle, livestock compete with humans for food, and in some environments, advanced horticultural techniques can probably support more people per square kilometer than agrarian techniques. Aside from average density, agrarian technology permitted urbanization of population to a greater extent than was possible under horticulture for two reasons. First, settlement sizes grew with agrarian technology, because more productive farmers freed more people for urban specialty occupations. Second, land and maritime transportation improvements made it possible to supply great cities of 1 million plus inhabitants such as Rome, Baghdad, and the Chinese capital cities. Rome, for example, could draw grain and other bulk raw materials from Sicily, North Africa, Egypt, and southern France to sustain large populations, even by modern standards, using maritime transport on the Mediterranean. It is productivity per unit of labor and transport efficiency improvements of agrarian technology that had the widest impact on the more peripheral culture core features of agrarian societies. The populations of agrarian societies also have historically fluctuated substantially around the slowly rising trend line, due to famines, disease epidemics and political disruption. At least at the high points, population densities often seem to have exceeded the level at which everyone could be productively employed at current levels of technology. Malthusian deterioration, underemployment and a decline in rural and lower-class urban standards of living ensued. Agrarian societies are especially noted for their extremes of social classes and rigid social mobility. As land is the major source of wealth, social hierarchy develops based on land ownership and not labor. The system of stratification is characterized by three coinciding contrasts: governing class versus the masses, urban minority versus peasant majority, and literate minority versus illiterate majority. This results in two distinct subcultures: the urban elite versus the peasant masses. Moreover, this means that cultural differences within agrarian societies greater the differences between them. The landowning strata typically combine government, religious, and military institutions to justify and enforce their ownership, and support elaborate patterns of consumption. Slavery, serfdom, or peonage is commonly the lot of the primary producer. Rulers of agrarian societies do not manage their empire for the common good or in the name of the public interest, but as a piece of property they own and can do with as they please. Caste systems, as found in India, are much more typical of agrarian societies where lifelong agricultural routines depend upon a rigid sense of duty and discipline. The emphasis in the modern West on personal liberties and freedoms was in large part a reaction to the steep and rigid stratification of agrarian societies. Within agrarian societies, the primary source of energy is plant biomass. This means that, like hunter-gatherer societies, agrarian societies are dependent on natural solar energy flows. Thus, agrarian societies are characterized by their dependence on outside energy flows, low energy density, and the limited possibilities of converting one energy form into another. Energy radiating from the sun is primarily caught and chemically fixed by plant photosynthesis. Then it is secondarily converted by animals and, finally, processed for human use. However, unlike hunter-gatherers, agrarianism's basic strategy is to control these flows. For this purpose, agrarian system mainly uses living organisms which serve as food, tools, building material. Mechanical devices making use of wind or running water also can be used to convert natural energy flows. The amount of energy an agrarian society can use is restricted due to the low energy density of solar radiation and the low efficiency of technology. In order to increase production, an agrarian society must either increase the intensity of production or obtain more land to expand into. Expansion may take place either by claiming territories occupied by other communities, but expansion also may take place by claiming new ecological niches from other living species. However, societies are still limited by a diminishing margin of utility in that the best lands for farming are usually already under cultivation, forcing people to move into less and less arable lands.
Okay, you can listen from the video we have just watched. It has spelled out a lot of it has spelled out a lot of advantage, so many advantage on agrarian society. That it started, the implication of it is that agricultural and economic growth are, it give rooms to agricultural and economic growth. It also, as a result of agrarian society, so many people have food to eat because it gives room to high production, bumper output or yield. Agrarian society also help in the development. It brings about civilization in the country. And also we all have also heard that it gives room to raw materials that are being used in our industry, as it provides raw materials. The cultivation of crops and rearing of animals give rise to raw materials. Taking for example, the raw material for something like let's take for example the rubber, planting of a rubber plantation will give rise to plastic industries to get those raw materials and then process it and bring it to finished good. And then animal skin can also be used in leather wares and so on. So these are the areas we intend to cover in the course materials. So this course will take us a period of 8 weeks to cover the course contents as follows. Week 1, the general overview of the course contents. This is what we are doing now, what is going on right now. This includes day and time of weekly activities. We have here synchronous, that's the live class every Wednesday 10 to 11 a.m. and asynchronous, that is, we will have it on Saturdays as well. Saturdays, and it will be about 30 minutes. Then facilitation starts date is 6th, today, April 2021, and facilitation end date 30th May 2021. So in week 4, We will talk about agreement. We talked about agreement for establishing a regional center on agrarian reform and rural development. So under this agreement, this will cover Module 2, Unit 2, Unit 3, and Unit 4. Under Unit 2, we have agreement for establishing the regional center on agrarian reform and rural development. That is the agreement, what's the objectives, how it came to be established. Then, why? What are the aims? The objectives for establishment was that it will assist the national action and to stimulate and promote regional cooperation. It will also help to integrate rural people in development process. It will also encourage their participation in social and economic life. It will also improve the production, income, and living condition of small-scale farmers and other rural groups. It will foster the exchange of ideas and experience and to encourage such joint or collaboration activities as may benefit member states individually or collectively. In Unit 3, we talked about the structure, the various structure of the Regional Center on Agrarian Reform and Rural Development. Under this structure, we have the Governing Council. We will also discuss their functions. We will also have discussed on the Technical Committee and their functions. We also talked about the directors and their functions. When we talked about during there, we will also be able to pick them one after the other, and also under the governing councils of all member states, their functions will be to determine the policies of the center and approve its programs of work and budgets. Determine the contribution of member states as provided in the articles, and so on. So we'll also discuss the resources of, that is Unit 4. We talked about the resources of the regional center and its relation with other organizations and agencies. So under here, the resources of the center includes any premises, equipment, and other facilities owned by the center. It will also include the annual contribution of the member states to the center. We also talked about the proceeds from investment of liquid assets and parts thereof.
In this program, we're going to learn about an agrarian society. What is an agrarian society? An agrarian society is a society where agriculture, including both crop production and animal breeding, is the foundation of both the economy and jobs. Just a couple of hundred years ago, most people were living in agrarian societies. Most of the world's population depended on agriculture and farming. Before agriculture, people hunted or gathered their food. Egyptians were one of the first people on Earth to begin farming. Slowly over time, increasing numbers of humans changed to become dependent upon cultivated crops and domesticated animals for their life and livelihood. The invention of the plow marked the beginning of agrarian societies about 5,000 years ago. The animal-drawn plow made planting much easier and more productive. It's still used today for digging up furrows for farmers to plant their seeds. With improved agrarian technology, human population increased, and so did the size of human settlements around the world. Agrarian society relies most heavily on agricultural production. It was the most common form of socio-economic organization for most of recorded human history. Now that you know more about agrarian societies, think about this. What are some reasons the human population increased as farming technology improved?
In week 6, we will consider the various agrarian institutions. We will talk about the community-based agrarian culture and development programs. We also talk about the International Fund for Agricultural Development in Nigeria, that is IFAD. Under this, the community-based, that's Unit 1, talks about the community-based agrarian structure and rural development. So we'll see here we'll talk about what are the objectives, what motivated the Nigerian government to go into this, the community-based agrarian culture and rural development programs. And what are those areas? And it will have major impacts on poverty. This is because they could not, why they failed to create impacts on poverty. This is because they could not mobilize sufficient external resources to assist the large target group. They did not ensure a high promotion of funds to reach the target groups, and so on. So we also talked about the objectives of this community-based culture and rural development program. Unit 2 talks about the IFAD in Nigeria, that is the International Fund for Agricultural Development in Nigeria. So we know that international funds are foreign aids to help agricultural development in Nigeria. In the course of our discussion, we talked about the objectives. We'll cover the objectives of this and the success, whether if it has succeeded or if it has failed. Week 7 covers, under week 7, we'll take model 4, unit 2, unit 3, and unit 5. Under unit 1, we'll talk about green revolution, why it started, what was the rationale behind the establishment of green revolution in Nigeria. Then we'll also consider the various river basins development in Nigeria. In the course of it, we'll look at the functions, the general functions of river basins development in Nigeria, and we will also consider the specific functions of rural development in Nigeria. Then we'll also look at the various programs established or projects of rural development in Nigeria and their objectives. We'll take a study of a Benin Owena River Basins Development Authority. We'll consider that in Nigeria. And we will also look at the implications of Agrarian Institution for National Development. What are the implications? What impacts has it on national development? We'll look at all those activities. Week 8 topic is revision of the semester's work. Here we will look at what we did in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and week 7. And then during this period, the students' ability will be tested on Agrarian Institution and their management. Before I close, I want you to take this assignment home. Having watched the videos and listened to the facilitation, I want you to do the following tasks. These tasks will form part of our discussion tomorrow during the live class session. 1. What do you understand by agriculture? 2. What do you mean by the word agrarian? 3. What do you understand by institution? I would like you to go through this so that we'll brainstorm the whole thing together, the answers. Come out with their answers so that in our facilitation tomorrow, we'll be able to brainstorm together.